Welcome to the Saturday Cadence podcast. I'm Blake Biscardi, and remember, the Saturday Cadence podcast is the heartbeat of college football. Media Day is wrapped up for the national championship game. We are live here in Atlanta. We spoke with some of the coaches and the players around Media Day, so now we're going to give you a full breakdown because we know you want to know what's the vibe around the teams, what's their mindset heading into the game. So let's break all of that down. This is going to be a quick episode of Saturday Cadence. My name is Blake Biscardi, and I am your host. So let's hop right into it. So Media Day yesterday, Ohio State was the first team that was available. They were available for an hour. Then we had some of the ESPN personalities, and then we saw Notre Dame in the second hour. And the Buckeyes came out, and just as the vibe was when they got off the bus, it's the same it's been this entire playoff. There's a very business mindset. They are focused, but I've said they've been focused before, so I want to take the word focused and I want to make it determined. This team is determined. They have a mission. It is a clear mission. They seem locked in on that mission. They are blocking out all the noise of the distractions. Ryan Day was very big on saying that in there. He emphasized that point a lot, saying that they are blocking out all distractions right now. They are not having any external noise come in there. It is all about them inside there. Will Howard echoed that sentiment when we spoke to him. He said that it's not about what anyone else thinks outside of the building. It's not about the hatred for the opponent. It's about the love for their brother, the love for their teammate, the love for this program and the coaches. That's what's fueling them. It is not, we hate our opponent, Tennessee or Oregon or Texas or now Notre Dame. It's, we love our brother more, and that's the fuel that is going to take this team, and that is their mindset. And that's the biggest thing with this game here because of the way the matchup plays out. If you look at Ohio State and Oregon and how these two teams match up, or Ohio State and Notre Dame and how these two teams match up compared to how Ohio State and Oregon match up, or Ohio State and Tennessee, it's very different. This is not the same matchup that we saw versus Texas for Ohio State, where that was athlete for athlete, pound for pound, NFL guy for NFL guy. Notre Dame is a very good team, but the matchup is not favorable for the Irish like it was with Texas, where that is an equally talent game across the board at every single position. Notre Dame is battling a lot of injuries. So that's one of the big concerns for the Irish is what is their health going to be like? Who's going to be able to go? They're going to have a different starting left tackle. A lot of things that Marcus Freeman addressed. So that's the biggest thing surrounding this game is the health. Ohio State looked fresh. They are fresh. JT Tuimoloau, we saw him get off the plane. We saw him arrive at the hotel. We saw him at practice for the window that they allowed the media in there. He was walking around Media Day. His ankle's fine. He said he's good to go. There's no tape on it. There's no brace. He is good. Denzel Burke, same thing. So Ohio State at full capacity for what it can be without Seth McLaughlin and Josh Simmons. So the Buckeyes will be a full go Monday night in Atlanta for the national championship game, and they are laser focused. One of the questions that we asked Cody Simon was that he is wearing the Block O jersey this year and what that means to him. This is his final game. So what does that mean to him? And he said it means everything. This whole thing about this program is fight. My teammates trusted me, and I want to honor them, this team, and Buckeye Nation. And I think it's evident that he's been doing that with this field on the play, and he's got another opportunity on Monday night. He's probably the most underrated and underappreciated defender or even player in the country with his production at linebacker. He's come on extremely strong for Ohio State on the back half of this season, really since the Oregon game. But in this college football playoff, just been absolutely phenomenal. The entire defense has. And I spoke to Larry Johnson about that too, and I said, Coach, you got Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau out, especially coming on strong to close out this season on the edge. But the entire defensive line unit that you have, the entire defense is just playing at such a high level. What does that mean? And he said it means everything. It doesn't just mean because they're producing on the field. He's talking about their leadership in the room, bringing the young guys along with them, being good mentors. I mean, they're field on the play. Ohio State on defense is getting 16 sacks in this postseason, which is unbelievable for 3 games, especially when they did not have a sack against Michigan. They did not have a sack against Oregon in their 2 losses. now 16 sacks in this playoff run. So he feels good about the defense. Jim Knowles said the same thing. I asked him about the veterans that he has up there and why it is so nice to coach a unit that has so many veterans on there. And he said it makes his job easier. You got a guy like Caleb Downs who's a youngster, but he plays like a veteran. You have a Denzel Burke. You have Lathan Ransom. You have Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, Tyleek Williams. You've got guys across this defense, the Cody Simons of the world, that have been here for a long time. They know the system. They know the scheme. They know how to execute. And Knowles continued saying that he's got great players with experience who are also really good people and want to be coached. They want to be coached. He said they listen, they pay attention, they make adjustments, and they don't flinch. And I think that's a perfect encapsulation of what this Ohio State defense has been throughout this entire college football playoff run. And that's what we expect on Monday night in Atlanta is more of the same from that defense. Is no matter what Notre Dame's going to throw at them, there's going to be wrinkles. This team is not going to flinch. They've seen it. They will adjust, and they will go forward from there. Notre Dame has to run the ball to be successful. I think we know that. And there's all these different discrepancies or thoughts or opinions about how Notre Dame should play defense. So that might be up in the air. But one thing we know for certain is for Notre Dame to be successful, they have to run the football, whether that is Jeremiah Love, whether that is Jadarian Price, whether that is Riley Leonard. They must run the football to be successful. They have to. They have to. And that's going to be the biggest thing is who's going to spy on Riley Leonard. Will that be most likely Cody Simon? Saw sometimes they did that with JT Tuimoloau against Oregon. They dropped him, but brought a linebacker. So all different looks Ohio State's done. Jim Knowles so far has always had an answer for everything. Running quarterbacks, though, historically can present some fits for Ohio State defenses. I think it is well documented, and it's David's famous phrase we talked about on the national championship episode. He's talked about in every episode before that. It is hard to run on Ohio State on defense. It is really, really hard. So Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, it's hard as a running back to run on the Buckeyes. And this is a physical unit. Notre Dame is banged up front. So I think that has now, being around these teams, hearing the coaches speak, I think that becomes the matchup that I want to center on. It's not going to be, is Notre Dame going to run man coverage? It's not going to be, are they going to drop in the zone? It's not going to be, are they going to bracket Jeremiah Smith? Can Notre Dame run the football? They have to be successful. So that's the main matchup that I want to watch. But we heard Notre Dame. They said it. Multiple guys said it for Notre Dame that they're going to play their game. They're going to play man coverage. Al Golden, that's what he wants to do. It's man coverage. So whether that is coach speak, whether that's media speak, whether that is just the bait, they're saying they're going to run man coverage. If they run man coverage, this is Jeremiah Smith's mindset. He said, my mindset is to go out there on Monday and just dominate the person that's in front of me. Do what I've been doing. They play a lot of man, so I'm just ready for the challenge. Now, he continued later saying that he would be a decoy to win the game if that's what they have to do. I mean, this team is selfless. They are ready to go, and they are locked in. And I think Ryan Day's answer was the most fascinating about this is because I asked him, how do you balance the emotion of the roller coaster that you've been on for the last 2 months with, I didn't get into the specifics because we already know, but I asked him to just speak to your team culture. I said, what does that mean to you? And he said that you either have momentum or you got to go get it. And they didn't have it to end the season. But now they went and got it against Tennessee, and they've kept it. Because when you have it, you have to keep it. So now that they have it, they've kept it through the Tennessee game. They've kept it through the Oregon game. They've kept it through the Texas game. Now they have to keep it for the Notre Dame game to finish what they've started. That was his closing remark. He said, now we got to finish. We have to finish what we started. That is how the Buckeyes are going to approach this game. That's how they're doing it. They are ultra focused. They are determined to win this football game. This is what those guys came back for. I don't think that we're going to see the Ohio State team that we saw against Michigan where it can get lulled into that game. I don't think Ohio State's going to make that mistake twice. Ohio State Now, penalties you can't speak to, but in terms of game planning, I don't think that we will see Ohio State beat itself with the game plan in this game. I don't think it's going to be a case of that. If Ohio State has those penalties like they did against Texas, obviously that's different. But if Ohio State loses this game, it's going to be because Notre Dame was better. They out executed them, they out physicaled them, they out toughed them, and they out schemed them. It is not going to be because Ohio State just tried to force feed running the football and not use the wide receivers, and they just had a backwards game plan. That will not be the case from Ohio State, and I think that's what they know. And just building off of Dave's answer too, at the beginning of a football game, you got to get momentum. So who gets momentum first? If the Buckeyes get the ball and they go down and score, that's going to get momentum. Notre Dame on defense, if they get off the field, that's getting momentum. Where's that chess match going to be in the game? Who's going to get momentum first? The coin toss is a huge thing. If Ohio State wins the toss and defers, and then that defense gets off the field, then they go score a touchdown. I mean, that is getting momentum. So that's the game within the game here is who's going to get that momentum first in this matchup. And just now to talk a little bit more about Notre Dame, we spoke to Marcus Freeman and Mike Denbrock and listened to Al Golden and a couple of the other guys, Riley Leonard, Christian Gray. But for Marcus Freeman, he said he's told his team all week, this isn't about the past. This isn't about where I went to school. It's not about the previous games. It's about the opportunity that's in front of us. I think he's doing a good job of keeping the focus that way. But if you're in the media or if you've watched these games or if you're saying, how is this one going to go? I do think that the last two results are relevant. I think that we saw Notre Dame pull Ohio State into a game that was a slugfest, that they trailed late at both. Ultimately, Ohio State ended up winning. But Notre Dame was able to run the football. They played really good defense. They slowed the game down. They muddied the waters, which we talk about all the time. That's the way that you have to do it. That's what he did. But at the same time, the quarterback who was under center is now playing at Syracuse, just to declare for the draft, Kyle McCord. And the running back who scored the game-winning touchdown, Chip Trainum, is now at Toledo, his third school. The point in that being, this is a different Ohio State team, which I also said to Marcus when I asked him that. And he went on to speak about that. And, you know, it's the typical answer. Marcus is just so good. And I said, but more importantly, what's different about your team? And as he's talking about it, he's dismissive of the last two games. He's dismissive that he has an alum. He was an alum of Ohio State. Now that he is at Notre Dame, they have this game that they are focused on winning. It's not about the past. It's not about the future. It's about this moment right here, this opportunity that they have to go win this football game. And I think Notre Dame is going to be ready to go. I don't know physically how far they're going to be able to go. So they're going to have to dig deep. They are banged up. Ohio State is certainly fresher, and that's a testament to maybe blowing out Tennessee and Oregon and not having to rotate as much in the second half where they could just play some of the younger guys. So it takes some snaps off, because this was Ohio State's plan from the get-go, was to be fresh for this moment. That's why they played less snaps coming into the season. They were talking about that. They did that all year. They played slower. They took snaps away from the starters, but they got here to this moment and they're fresh. That was the goal. That's what they wanted to do. Notre Dame, on the other hand, they've had some slugfest here in the playoff. Indiana started coming back late. That game was never in doubt. Notre Dame was always going to win that game. And Notre Dame was controlling the Georgia game. And then the Penn State game, that was a slugfest. It was a fist fight. But they had to grind that out on the line of scrimmage. They had to do all of those things well in order to win that game. But they've paid the price because it's extra snaps, it's extra wear and tear. And that was my biggest thing, just seeing those two teams, is Ohio State looked fresher. Ohio State looked more confident. Ohio State looked like they're a team determined that's going to play their game. They're not going to play someone else's game. And the vibe around Notre Dame, listening to the coaches, especially with Al Golden, was Notre Dame knows that there's a certain way that they have to win this game, barring something off script happening. Now, Notre Dame's very opportunistic with turnovers. They do that. They will probably get one in the game. But I think that Notre Dame knows that there's a certain way that they have to win this game. And it's about, can they make Ohio State play that version, which they can. They're fully capable of doing. So that's where I think their game plan is going to center around is Notre Dame has a specific way they need to win the game. They need it to be low scoring. They need it to feature the defense. They need it to be slow. They need it to be muddy. They need special teams to matter. That's Notre Dame's biggest advantage is if special teams matter in this game, if the game comes down to special teams, that's the advantage for the Irish, and they know it. They need special teams to matter. So for Ohio State, if they come out and bait the Buckeyes to run the ball in early downs where they've not been successful, and they do it, and Notre Dame can get off the field, so they can force a second and long and maybe a third and long. Those are the things to watch during this game to say, we talk about game flow. How is this going to play out? What's going to happen here? Those are the things to look at early in the game. Who's winning those things? Is Ohio State passing the ball in first down? Are they running the ball in first down? Are they having success? Are they getting into third and long? Ohio State averaged 3rd and 10.5 against Texas. Now, most of that was because of penalties. But still, however you can get it, you get it. Whether it's your defense or if it's their miscues, you'll take it. Notre Dame needs that in the game to be successful. They need to have the obvious passing situations. They need to be able to control the run box up front with less players so they can commit more in the passing game, especially if they play man coverage. We assume they're going to bracket Jeremiah Smith. They've done that with Marvin Harrison Jr. each of the last couple of seasons. Texas did it. Michigan does it. They play him with the corner and they have the safety help over top. So that's how Notre Dame is going to have to win this football game. And I think that they can, but I don't think the percentage is as big as Ohio State's with if Ohio State starts scoring points. If we were talking and you think of the number 24 points, can Notre Dame get to 24? Can Ohio State get to 24? So Ohio State has not scored more than 21 points against Notre Dame in each of the last 2 meetings. So we've been talking about this and saying, Ohio State's offense is going to be fine. The Buckeyes have not scored more than 21 points against Notre Dame. So Notre Dame knows how to do this. I don't want everyone to be dismissive of it where you're saying, that's never going to happen. This version of Ohio State's different. It's very different, but you still got to go do it. And I think Ohio State can, but they still have to go do it. So Notre Dame knows they have the blueprint. They've done it. They've executed it. They've seen this Ohio State team. Now, they've not seen Will Howard. They've not seen Quinshon Judkins. They've not seen Jeremiah Smith. Julian Fleming was wide receiver 3 in last year's game. So these teams look very different. And Marcus Freeman said that. I mean, there's different players. They look different. But Notre Dame still has the blueprint that they need to go ahead and win this game. From that perspective, we're touching on both teams here. We did get a minute with Reese Davis, and we asked him about the impacts of having Ohio State Notre Dame as national championship. They're two of the largest alumni. They're the 2 largest alumni and fan bases in the sport. And he was like, well, I hope it means a ratings bonanza, and I hope it means a great game. And he said, whenever you do something as different and as new as this, it's very cool if you can tie the thread back to something traditional, which I think, and he said this, they're separated by less than 300 miles, but they very rarely play. Now, he said, and I know they've played the last 2 seasons, and sure, but these 2 teams don't, but they're traditional brands of college football. They're tying in the past. They're tying in what makes college football great. They're tying in what is so special about the sport. And that's what he said is always very cool. And it's the same thing. I mean, you have a 12-team playoff, it's new, but it sure is cool to get the Ohio State Notre Dame matchup in the national championship game. I do think this is going to be a ratings bonanza. I think that it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a slugfest. And I think it's going to go into the second half. So I expect a really good game from these 2 teams. These 2 defenses are going to show out. And again, I really am looking forward to this matchup. I think this is going to be great. I will wind it down a little bit with Jack Sawyer. He's been the talking point for Ohio State for weeks now. And I just asked him, I was like, what does this mean to you to be a Buckeye? You grew up from Pickerington. You grew up an Ohio State fan. You are a Buckeye now. You just had that moment. What does it mean to cap this off in the national championship? And he just said it means everything to him. And then he reiterated that he grew up there right outside of Columbus, 15 minutes from the stadium. Like he knows what this is and he knows the opportunity. And he said that they're excited for it. They're ready for it. And what better way to go out than the national championship? And I think he's completely right. I expect a big game from 33. So this is going to be good. So make sure you tune in. As Atlanta knows how to put on an event. I will say that they have been great going into Mercedes-Benz. We got into the practice window for a little bit. That field is pristine. Very cool venue. Very, very cool venue. It's a shame the Falcons are not better where it could not get louder. That was some of the local chatter there when we were talking to him. It was my first time in the stadium. And he's like, "You've been here before?" I was like, "No, it's first time." Looks gorgeous from the outside, architecture-wise. It's just the iconic. Then you got the Mercedes logo. It's huge on the outside. Then you go in and you see the roof, the iconic roof. The field conditions are pristine. No wonder the SEC plays so many games there. So I understand it now. I used to give them a hard time at seeing that stadium and that field, that setting. It is going to make for a spectacular college football playoff national championship game, the first one of the 12-team era. Two iconic brands, Ohio State and Notre Dame. Two young coaches, both rising quickly, Ryan Day and Marcus Freeman. Going to be a great one. Continue to stay tuned to our social medias at Saturday Cadence and at T Silver Bulletin. We have been putting out content galore since we've gotten on the ground in Atlanta. We've done over 1 million views of all the content we've posted on social. So you can find that on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, the website. We've got you covered from all areas. Got the podcast coming out now. Continue to stay tuned. Make sure to like and subscribe. Appreciate you checking in with us on this Sunday episode recapping Media Day, national championship game coming up just hours away from crowning the 2024-25 national champion of college football. Will it be Ohio State or Notre Dame? Let us know in the comments. I appreciate you listening and checking out all of our coverage. Continue to stay tuned. Enjoy the national championship game, and God bless.